I reflected on the ferry journey in which those interviewed seemed to be happy with the extreme measures that had been taken. This gave rise to further thoughts around the very issue of democratic government itself. Here governments were acting or reacting to events in the only way they could, the spectre of untold deaths having been raised. They were simply acting as a mirror for the mood of the people. But would we in time come to regret our decision, a decision we had foisted on our governments, like a drunkard who strikes out angrily one night and then wakes the next morning sober with the painful realization of what he has done and its long-term effects? This led me to cast my mind back 2,000 years to the Western world's first proper historian, Thucydides, and a strange little story he tells of an island colony who rebelled against Athens, the world's first democracy, in their battle with Sparta during the Peloponnesian War. But more of that later in the episode. So I've arrived at Karlskrona railway station. I'm going to be going up the coast of Sweden to my ultimate destination. It's quite refreshing to actually just see people going about their normal daily lives without face masks. Just past some teenagers, a Chinese girl, what looked like a Pakistani or Indian guy, and a black kid as well, just sort of merrily trotting along. Don't know what they're doing up 9 o'clock on a Sunday morning. Stay tuned. So if you haven't already, you will obviously sense a little bit of prejudice on my part in relation to this issue, but just remember that 3 weeks ago I wasn't prejudiced. I was just trying to keep an open mind. I was trying to be a professional and look after staff and take a proper view and eyeball this situation. And, I was, as a lawyer, was just simply trying to look at the strength of the argument on that side, just as I would really want to look at the strength of an argument when I'm in a situation with an opponent in litigation, because you so easily pull the wool over your eyes when you get close to your client, you believe everything they say, and you become a champion for their case. You need to have that intellectual rigour to look at just how strong and actually construct at its very highest the strength of your opponent's case as against yours. Anyway, I then come on to the issue of numbers, and there are lots of high numbers, numbers of 200, 300 a day, going up to 900 a day, broaching the 1,000 mark. And that is a lot of people dying. That is a serious number of people, a serious number of deaths. But being a bit of a party pooper that I was when I was talking to buddies or communicating online, I just found myself pouring cold water on the conversation at times, because I kind of acknowledged that that was regrettable, but I was like, why are you getting so energetic and so energized about it now? Because if you look at the statistics, last year, the previous year, the year before that, and certainly in peak years with serious flu seasons, you could just construct the same numbers. Why are you energetic now? Why weren't you so wound up about the issue back then? And as I say, referring to the UK excess deaths number, 170 odd thousand in last year, the first 14 weeks, same figure this year during the course of the highest point in the coronavirus curve. 200,000 plus dying of seasonal flu in Europe. Why are you so energetic about the issue now? And I thought about this issue of number. I mean, numbers are sort of just scary. Stick a naught on a number and suddenly you become scared. See it on a mobile phone during the times of a total unknown health pandemic where nobody knows what's going on and everyone's full of fear. It'll rocket your whatever chemicals it is through the roof when you think about it. Adrenaline will just go through the charts. But when you drill into it, if I said to you, okay, look, there are 20,000 grains of sand on the beach, would you think that was a high number? We're a big beach, a nice big beach, and I say there are 20,000 grains of sand on this beach.
unbelievable, isn't it? You'd roll your eyes at the back of your head and think I was an idiot. What if I said there are 2,000 dogs in the park this afternoon? Then you might think, bloody hell, that's a lot of dogs. That's a serious amount of dogs to be contained in a park. So you see, what everyone seems to be missing is the idea of magnitude, of relationships from one number to the next. I was beginning to feel somewhat depressed because I'm a little bit moody because, was I going to get invited out to a dinner party? Should I've been allowed to leave my apartment? I was sort of being shunned, being ostracised without needing to have the government tell me to get myself into a state of house arrest. And I started to think that, I was in danger of being in a minority and in danger of being ostracised. I was in danger of becoming an outsider, God forbid, a conspiracy theorist. So quite a depressing time.
Well, I have to say I like this train. There's no driver, so I guess I could jump into the seat and drive the first train, which is something I've never done in my life. I wonder if I ask him whether he'll let me drive it. Well, here's an interesting situation. The lady behind me is sneezing like a trooper, and everybody seems a little bit well, there's a couple over here who've wandered off into the distance, somewhat concerned. So I guess there is still some apprehension. Certainly there's still signs, and still indications over here at least that people are taking the flu virus seriously. I guess the interesting question is whether or not you would, walk 10 meters on from a lady who is just simply sneezing on a rather beautiful spring summer's day. I don't know. You probably wouldn't, would you? I don't know. You probably would take a couple of steps away. But I think definitely you can sense that things have been heightened by the fact that there's a global flu pandemic, or at least that's what the governments and the press are at pains to tell us. So we're on the bus now, and the lady in question, it seems, has been consigned to the back, snoozing happily away, whereas everybody else seems to have gravitated towards the front of the bus, which may be a complete coincidence. I can't help but keep coming back to the numbers, because it does seem that we all are now kind of laser focused on those numbers that are being printed by press and in particular online. We're glued to a number. It becomes sort of like a monster number. It's interesting to think, isn't it? Can you imagine the sci-fi movie where a number was the actual monster running around causing havoc and gobbling everybody up? But that's how we feel, and I hope I've illustrated with the analogy from the last section that numbers are pointless unless you set them in some sort of a context, and all you can really say, I think at this point in time, is that we are now focused on this monster number, and we never were before. We didn't even know the monster existed a couple of years ago, but little did we know it was actually running rampant in the towns and the forests right under our noses. But just now we've decided to take an interest in it and take a focus on it, and to develop and build kind of a dramatic soap opera out of it as well. The press are very incredibly irresponsible. I mean, what can they do? They've got to make money. They've got to sell newspapers and be as sensationalist as they possibly can. But they're creating, or they're seriously exacerbating the problem, creating this fear virus, which is then forcing the governments to take the decisions that they make, or they'll lose the will of the people, because everybody's terrified, I guess, of health issues these days. It seems to me to be the kind of the number one topic. Brexit is a distant speck in the rear view mirror. But in all seriousness, this world-o-meter, I mean, why doesn't it put last year there were 550,000 people who died of flu in the world, above and bigger and in bold than the figure that we've got now, 150,000 odd. Yeah, and that is the kind of the irresponsible thing, and you just wonder, are these people part of the solution, or actually are they feeding the problem further? Are they feeding are they feeding the number monster? Now, there is no smoke without fire, and I admit that there have been hot spots around the world, whether in northern Italy or New York, but also in Sweden, the otherwise golden boy of proportionate response. There were 50% care home deaths that, by Dr. Anders Tegnell's own admission, may not have happened had they acted promptly enough. This seems to be because the virus spreads rapidly and so creates spikes which put the hospitals and care homes under pressure. But it may also be a case of an accident waiting to happen. For instance, North Italy is the most polluted part of Europe and has the second oldest population in the world. Was an underfunded health system able to cope? But my point is, and I take you back to my central question, is the virus so lethal that it justifies extreme emergency measures likely to trigger unknown but serious economic impacts, and significantly, a yet further underfunded health system unable to deal with such shocks in the future? You now have a bizarre situation where countries with very little in the way of deaths, such as Poland, are taking the same extreme measures as have been taken in other parts of Europe. For instance, the Polish health minister tells us that masks must now be worn until a vaccine is found. You can't help but ask, really, is it a flu virus that's being spread, or is it a fear virus? And after all, thanks to Dr. Anthony Fauci and others, and the WHO, and the sequence of events from China, and then the Diamond Princess, and these gentlemen going public with their proclamations, throw into the mix the fact that we have the internet, well, they have the internet, someone has the internet at their disposal, such that you can disseminate that kind of a fear virus a zillion times over in real time, instantaneously. Then you have really got the ingredients, a remarkable tool, really, when you think about it, the internet, for the spread of whatever it is you want to spread. And in this instance, I'm not suggesting that it's of course I'm not suggesting that it's a deliberate act by some sort of government or some individuals. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but it is worth noting how powerful a tool this is. And in the hands of, history's dictators, I dare say, they would be licking their lips and relishing the idea of getting their hands on something like the internet. Now, at the outset, I told you I would tell you a little story from ancient history, penned by Thucydides. He was writing about the Peloponnesian War, in which Sparta and Athens were slugging it out for supremacy of the Greek world. Sparta was an aristocracy and Athens a democracy, the first ever, in fact, the crucible in which democracy was formed. He tells us of an island colony that had rebelled against Athens and joined the Spartans. Now, the Athenian demos, thousands of them, used to make decisions in a great market square, and they arrived on that particular morning to vote in a state of great anger and indignation at the news. They voted to send a galley of soldiers and sailors to the island and to put the entire colony to death. But the next morning, when they met again, they must have all looked at each other sheepishly and wondered at what they had done. In fact, they then promptly voted to send another galley to stop the first. Fortunately, the first galley was going very slowly, as the soldiers and sailors were not rowing with very much enthusiasm at the task ahead. And they caught the galley up, but only just in time. Does this ancient anecdote have an eerie relevance for us? I'm just secretly filming you.
Are you?
Yeah.
No.
I am, don't worry. You have final edit. Nothing will go public.
I'll try to Google it myself, just trying to work out if there were any other hidden...
medical conditions?
Yeah. But I've not been able to find anything. And I've asked around and people have been talking about it, but nothing's known.
What's his name?
Adam Alsing.
Adam Alsing.
Adam, as in Adam Alsing.
Adam Alsing. And was he an actor?
No, not an actor, just a TV chat show host.
Show host.
Yeah. And he was doing a lot of radio too.
Okay. And he definitely died of COVID-19, did he?
Yeah.
Without any other underlying medical conditions, and he was 50.
Yeah.